gentlemen, to another episode of ENN, also known as Exiles Network News. It is your weekly movie podcast where your favorite film exiles discuss the week's top film news topics. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Chris.
What's up, man? Looking forward to it.
And by Paul.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. First time on ENN, and looking forward to being part of it.
Woohoo!
Woo! Since it's your first time on, after we're going to take you out, we're going to get some strippers, going to get some coke, we're going to party. So I hope you're ready.
You said coke. That's fantastic.
I meant like, the soda, like Coke.
Of course you did. Yes. Of course you did. You're like a 10-year-old birthday party. We'll have some cake.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, we'll do that.
All right. So are you guys ready?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Start your engines. Let's go. Over the past couple of weeks, we've done like a bunch of Batman, casting news from the long in development Batman film, which is finally revving its engines and about to get going. It's been in development for a long time. So we have Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, Zoe Kravitz as the anti-hero Catwoman. We have Jonah Hill, who did a little bit of hopping in and out. He was going to be a cast, and then now he's not going to be cast. And, we'll talk about that as well. Then we have Paul Dano, who is finally being cast to play the Riddler. So let's just talk about these one by one. Let's start with Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Christian, what do you think about the casting of Jeffrey Wright?
I'm feeling it. Jeffrey Wright brings, I don't know if I would, maybe gravitas isn't the right word.
It is, though.
But I guess it is. He brings a seriousness to the role that I like. And unfortunately, J.K. Simmons was in Justice League very briefly. I mean, really, what kind of Commissioner Gordon are you really going to get out of that? It's tough to top Gary Oldman, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's really tough to top him.
Super iconic.
He really is. And poor Pat Hingle, I know he's passed away now, but the Burton/Schumacher films, that was a different Batman universe. That was kind of a do-nothing Commissioner Gordon that almost harkened back to the 1960s Adam West days. If Wright can really bring what Gary Oldman brought to the character, I'm going to be looking forward to his rendition of it. I really am. So I just like what he brings. Let's see what he's got, man. It's too early to tell, but let's see what he's got. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Chris on this. I think it's of the castings, it's my favorite of the bunch, including including the Pattinson casting. I really like him for the role. Really liked him in Westworld. I'm having trouble putting a finger on what else I've seen him in, but
he was in Bond.
As
the CIA agent in Casino Royale.
Yeah. So no, I like him for the role. I mean, the only downside is it puts a nail in the coffin of that glimmer of hope we had that this is going to be set in the 20 years leading up to BVS, which I was really holding out some hope for. But based on the casting alone, really like it. It's a positive sign, and I think in that we're probably not going to get comedy. I mean, that's always the concern ever since Justice League. You just hope they're not going to jam it full of quips and banter, and I think so far this is a positive sign. So I like it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you guys. Jeffrey Wright, he's a very serious actor, and he's a really good actor. I'm a huge fan of Westworld, and his work in Westworld is superlative. And he's got that commanding voice, that powerful voice. Like everything he says is just like more important.
I love the guy's voice. I really do.
His talks with Batman are gonna be epic on the GCPD rooftop. With the bat, signal in the background. I can just picture it. It really works. And he has the beard and the facial hair. Commissioner Gordon always has to have some kind of facial hair, and he's got that going. So I think it's a good look. I'm really, curious to see how that's going to turn out. Now, the next exciting bit of casting news has been Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. So what do you guys think of Miss Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman?
I don't know a ton about her. I mean, I guess I've seen her in a few things, but never really felt she stood out. That being said, I like her look for the role. And to be honest, I don't I don't really care who's cast. I think the bigger concern for me is how they're being asked to portray the character. Like, I didn't like the Michelle Pfeiffer over the top acting like a cat stuff from Batman Returns.
Interesting.
And you are really an exile.
Oh,
really?
I do not like it. And
the Exiles.
Oh, it's cringe. It's just cringe. And then Halle Berry took it to the next level with the try too hard Catwoman. That's even worse cringe.
Just strike.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely.
You didn't enjoy her basketball skills. She wasn't.
I
enjoyed her costume.
I skimmed through some YouTube highlights of her in that movie today just to refresh my memory, and I couldn't even take that. It was rough. And then I think my favorite of the Catwomen, and this isn't to say I loved her in the role, but I think by far the best was Anne Hathaway. But she just looked so frail and fragile. It was hard to buy her in the role. I mean, I liked her otherwise, but I think Zoe Kravitz is a good choice. Reserve judgment till we see her. But I got nothing negative to say about the casting, so we'll wait and see.
Chris, what do you think?
I think Paul, he nailed it on a couple things. I mean, my wife is extremely supportive of my crush on Zoe Kravitz, so I'm lucky there. I have a huge crush on her, so I've loved her since First Class, and I know she was in the Divergent series and everything like that. So yeah, she's got a background. I don't know if gravitas is the right word for Zoe. People. I'm a comic purist sometimes. I can be a little bit of an elitist that way. It's not fair, but I'm a nerd. What are you going to do? But I think people sometimes get really bogged down with that stuff. And they're like, oh, well, he or she doesn't look like this character and doesn't look like that. Who cares? Who cares? Let's see what she can do in the role. If you're going to compare, Michelle Pfeiffer, I think, was a completely different Catwoman. Tim Burton went for this crazy, fantastical world. I'm with Paul. I probably would say that Anne Hathaway might be the best one. But have we really had a fantastic Catwoman on film yet? Michelle Pfeiffer brought a ridiculous amount of sensuality and sexuality to that role. It was incredible. But like Paul said, there was this very almost out of control, kind of aspect that she brought to it. And that's because Tim Burton had that strange, fantastical world and universe that he brought. So yeah, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing what she can bring to the table. Let's not pass judgment yet.
True. Zoe Kravitz. One thing I'll say is this: she has a look, and when I say a look, I mean it's a particular sort of almost exotic look. She's a campaign model for YSL. I don't know if she's on a lot of billboards and posters and makeup stuff. But where I'm at, she's on a lot of stuff because she just has this very exotic sort of look, and she's really slim, so I think she's going to look amazing in the cat suits, and I can't wait.
Well, yeah.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord, so much. But on a more serious note, I think it's a really good casting, because one thing about Catwoman is that you have to calibrate, this sort of strong character that's able to physically hold her own to a degree with a sort of soft sensuality that is also unarming. And she has to have a lot of sexual chemistry with Batman. She's a femme fatale. They have to play off each other. So it's a very, very difficult role to cast. Now, this is my controversial statement, and I'm going to say it with my chest. I'm going to, stand 10 toes down and say this. I thought that Anne Hathaway was a terrible Catwoman. Banish me.
I can't.
I don't feel strongly enough to argue with you on that. I think she was the best of the bunch, but
I really thought she was too good. She has this sort of girl next door. That's the way I feel about Anne Hathaway as a person. She's a great actress, and she worked with what she had to work with well, but I felt that she didn't really have that sort of raw sexual energy, that mystery that I feel like great Catwoman should have, at least from the comics I've been reading, and even the archetype, she's a femme fatale, But to me, and Hathaway, had like a good girl, sort of like girl next door kind of vibe to her. Very classy, very cool, but a girl next door. And Michelle Pfeiffer is to me, she's the GOAT. But the thing about Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, as you guys said, is that she can't exist anywhere but in Tim Burton's fantastical S&M world.
Yep.
Like freaky fantasy, 50 Shades of Grey / Batman movie.
I'm not into the fantastical take.
Yeah, it's a different. Tim Burton is Tim Burton, right? You kind of know what you're going to get with him, and I don't have a problem with Burton, but it's when you get a Tim Burton movie, you're like, okay, this is really, Gotham City's going to be kind of crazy and the Art Deco crap, and he's got like statues everywhere, and that's what it's going to be. So you kind of knew that going into it. I think Anne Hathaway definitely is the Catwoman that we would get in a quote unquote realistic world. But while she may be the one I like the best, you're right. She still had kind of like a goody two shoes, a goody two shoes who was trying to be bad.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. I really like that phrasing. So
I'd like to see a Catwoman. I was going to say I'd like to see a Catwoman that's a little tougher, a little more rugged, but natural, not a try too hard kind of depiction.
And Zoe might bring that, man.
I think she will. I think she will. Like, I've seen her in like Big Little Lies. I think that's her most like intensely dramatic role. And if you see her acting in that, like, that she's ready. She's ready for this. Absolutely. Now it's interesting. Like, we all, kind of like the role, but there were some other actresses who were in the running. We had Ana de Armas. She's been like a bunch of really good stuff. She was in War Dogs. She was also in Blade Runner 2049. Ella Balinska. She's a British actress, Black lady. She's going to be in the upcoming Charlie's Angels movie. And Isa Gonzalez, who's been in a bunch of roles. She was in Baby Driver. So she was in that. And they all auditioned for the role. So what do you guys think of those alternatives? Would you have preferred any of them? And Catwoman is like a character that everybody seems to have their own personal ultimate fan cast. So I'm really curious to know, like, what is your ultimate fan cast? And we can start with Paul. Tell us about it.
Okay. Well, I like the one they chose. I like Zoe Kravitz. I think, maybe Ana de Armas would have been my second choice. I don't know much about any of those three, really, though. Again, to me, it's how they choose to depict the character that's most important. And, I think there's a high risk of cringe when you introduce Catwoman. So it's got to be done carefully. And that's my biggest concern, not so much who the actress is, but how they're asked to portray the character. And, let's just hope for the best. But I think, I think they made the right decision based on, early review.
Mm-hmm. And so who's your ultimate, like, fan cast? Is there any actress that you always wished would be Catwoman?
No, you know what? I'm not a big Catwoman guy, and to be honest, here's another hot take for you. I think the entire Bat family just is pure cringe.
Yay!
I like. Oh God! I think the Bat family is atrocious. Give me an angry loner Batman and a brutal angry loner Batman. That's my kind of Batman.
That's it. Well,
I don't need three Robins and a Batgirl and a Batwoman. No, thank you to all that.
If you get canceled, I can't save you. That's all. I can't save you. All right, Chris.
That family is cringe. There you go.
All right, Chris. What's your take on?
I disagree with you, sir, but I respect your right to say no. No, I don't know. First of all, I was happy that I had an opportunity to Google every single one of the alternatives one at a time. So any one of them would have been great. Seriously, any one of them would have been great. I think, and we just said we think Zoe. We believe she's going to be great. So I'm cool. Hey, either way, no matter what they did, I think I would have been fine. All the actresses that they had on the plate are fine, and I think they could have brought something to Catwoman. Me, if I had to pick, I think Natalie Dormer.
Wow,
Natalie Dormer.
That's a good one.
If I was thinking Catwoman, I've kind of been in love with her since the Tudors. And she can be a badass, man.
She was amazing on Game of Thrones.
She really was.
Yeah, Natalie. Yeah, this is the type of role that she would have shined in. She's naturally kind of like very seductive and sly, and you can't tell her motives. Like,
she got
perfect.
sultry look to her, and I just she would have been slinking around and everything like that. And you're right, the motive thing would have been big. Is she really supporting Bruce or is she against Bruce?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, who knows? It doesn't matter. We got Zoe right now, but Natalie Dormer, if I have my fan cast, that's her.
All right. Well, for me, out of the four women, I actually think that Zoe Kravitz, in terms of acting skill and sort of a look, I think Zoe Kravitz is probably the best. But all of them look amazing, and I can tell that Matt Reeves has a good eye for talent, if you know what I mean.
Yes, he does. Good man.
You know what I mean? Very much like Paul, my second choice would have been Ana de Armas. She also has, that look, and she can act. Ella Balinska, I've seen her act a bit. I don't think she's a very strong actress, but she has a great look. Isa Gonzalez, she has an amazing look too, but I've never felt that she's really a good actress. So I think that they really did make the best choice. If they had picked Ana de Armas, I would have been very happy with that choice as well. And for me, my ultimate fan cast, the person that I think was born to be Catwoman, is Ava Green.
Ooh.
Yes. If you remember, especially like how she played her character, Vesper, in Casino Royale.
So good in Casino Royale.
How she had that back and forth.
That duality was great. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I believe, like, if she was ever cast to play Catwoman, she would slay. And I think that because she's a little bit older, she would have been perfect for Ben Affleck's Batman. But
yeah, if he had remained, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was all a dream. All right. So let's move on to some more of the casting. Now, there's been this whole topsy-turvy roller coaster with Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill, he did a little double dutch, hop in, hop out. He seemed to be going to, be either Penguin or the Riddler. And finally, they say he's no longer going to play. And then just recently, Paul Dano, who was in Prisoners. He was also in Okja. He was in 12 Years a Slave. He was in Swiss Army Man. He's been cast to play Edward Nashton, a.k.a. the Riddler. So, Christian, what do you think of Jonah Hill not being in the film? And what do you think of Edward Nashton playing the Riddler?
We tend to, I think, react very viscerally immediately when we hear casting news. We tend to. And I know I did it. I've been right sometimes, and the casting has been, really horrible. And I've been like, I told you so. But most times, like 9 times out of 10, I'm wrong. And the person who does it does an amazing job. I wasn't sold on Ben Affleck when they first said he was going to be Batman. I went to go see BVS and was like, yep, this guy's my favorite part of the movie. I loved everything he did. So obviously, if the story that they're getting, the meat, if you will, that's on the bone that they're getting is good stuff, they can work with it, and they're good. Basically, they're a good performer, they're a good actor, they can make something out of it. This poor movie has been such a long time coming. Is it a reboot? Is it a prequel? Is it Ben Affleck? Is it not Ben Affleck? It is a standalone. We have, you know what I mean? It's been like up and down and back and forth, and nobody knows what's going on. There's been this typical Warner Brothers scattershot approach. Mm-hmm. I don't think we're really surprised that Jonah Hill was in and out, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he was in, negotiations broke down, he's out. So I don't think anybody's really surprised at that right now. I mean, if we're just going to say, does anybody, by the way, remember Paul when he was in that Alicia Cuthbert movie, Girl Next Door?
Yeah. Wow.
He was in, like,
classic.
Kid in that. Look, the guy's got, I know that movie aside, I've known that guy, not known personally, but known him as an actor for a long time. The guy's got some acting chops. I think the Riddler should be a little mysterious. He should be a little bit smarter, or at least on par with Bruce Wayne. He should sometimes be operating in the shadows. I think I saw somebody on Twitter today say he looks like just a vanilla white guy, but that's kind of the Riddler, right? Like, that's so. Let's give him a shot. He's got the chops to do it. I just think that we are so viscerally reacting to these casting announcements, just like that. Snap a finger, snap a finger. Everybody take a breath. There's been a lot of stuff coming out, and we just said we're supporting Zoe and Jeffrey Wright. Let's get behind this guy too. Let's get behind him too.
So, Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Paul Dano better than Jonah Hill. I was having a hard time picturing Jonah Hill, and as I said before, my biggest concern is I don't want this to turn into a comedy. And right now, they're saying the right things. They're saying that noir, detective, thriller, and I think Paul Dano fits better. I like him. I like the look of him as the Riddler. I didn't recognize the name immediately when I did a quick Google search. As I said to you guys, he looks to me like a soft Patrick Bateman. So I
Yeah.
kind of like it. I like the kind of psycho look to him, and I think he'll be good in the role. And now I just kind of hope that they. I'm pretty sure the Riddler's not going to have a question mark on his chest. So I'm hoping more for like a Seven type of, that type of, almost maybe like a serial killer kind of leaving riddles. That kind of character, something dark, serious. So hope for the best. But I think the casting choice could work, and I think it's a better choice than Jonah Hill, to be honest.
He's the guy that can take that spin, definitely.
Yeah, I know. I'm 100% with you guys on Paul Dano being a good casting decision to play Edward Nashton. A lot of people don't know him, but all I'll say is kind of like how Robert Pattinson has been, making these small indie movies that require really good acting skill. He's been doing the same thing for the past couple of years. So at least, you're getting a good actor. Jonah Hill, on the other hand, to be sincere, I thought that he was the most prestigious and most competent actor that was attached to the film, to be sincere. Like, although he's done a bunch of comedy stuff, he's also done serious and dark stuff as well. Like, if you've seen him in War Dogs, you know that he can play a serious, wicked character. Like, and when I say wicked, I mean wicked like evil.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy in that movie. Yep.
Definitely. So, I just wish that Warner Brothers did a better job revealing their casting. This is the old school way of revealing casting where, you let these news outlets do it. Like Disney does a better job. Marvel, the way they do it is they do it as special events. They make a big deal out of it. They make it an event for journalists and their fans, and they just drop like this huge nuclear bomb on all their fandom. But DC, they kind of let rumors come out, and they have instances like this where it's a little bit of an embarrassment and things are playing out in the media. I wish that they were a bit more calculated and coordinated and made more of an event of casting news. And it just
you're
comes
right.
up a bit
Agreed.
sloppy.
Yeah, you're right, and it's just right now, right or wrong. DC, I think Warner Brothers needs all the positive reinforcement that they can get because a lot of their fans, we talked to Manu a couple of weeks ago, not that they've necessarily jumped ship. Some of them have absolutely jumped ship. But they're just expecting the worst immediately all the time. Every news that comes out, well, I'm expecting this to be garbage every single time. So they're fighting an uphill battle on a consistent basis with, by the way, some of the greatest IP in all of comics. Yeah. And they're still fighting an uphill battle. They do it wrong.
Yeah.
They do it wrong.
Yeah. They need to get their marketing together. Yeah. They need to get their marketing, into the 21st century, at least.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the next topic, and we're going to talk about the mythical Snyder Cut. Now, we haven't talked a lot about the Snyder Cut on this channel, although we've broken some news on it. But we are very huge fans of Zack Snyder's work, and we're supporters of the Snyder Cut. And it's been a very eventful week for the movement. So, we thought that it'll be a good time to, collect all the news topics on it and talk about it. So this week, Zack Snyder himself did a couple of reveals on Vero for his fans. And also there has been some more positive, wide media support for the movement. So we'll start with Zack Snyder's reveals. On his Vero, he revealed that Harry Lennox, who played General Swanwick, was going to be revealed as Martian Manhunter in the Snyder Cut. He actually posted the film shots that he did for it. And also he posted something of Diana, aka Wonder Woman, in a little hall with like this mural, and he captioned it with "At the end, dark side." So, Paul, uh, talk to us about your reaction to this. What do you think about the Snyder Cut? Are you a supporter? Are you not? What do you think about these reveals?
Oh, of course, I'm a supporter. I got to say, the Snyder Cut is still the movie I'm most looking forward to of anything. You know, it's been for 3 years now. It's the reason I'm even on Twitter. So
Same here.
so it's totally changed the way I watch movies. It's you know, it's everything to me. I trade the next 3 years worth of movies just to get the Snyder Cut. You know, so and I'd scrap the entire future DC universe just to get the Snyder Cut. So for me,
Right,
this is the prize.
Okay.
No, that's so yeah, so this was, I mean, this was a surprising reveal because, you know, Snyder's revealed so much now through storyboards, and you know, it started to feel like some of the you know, the stories that have been broken, you know, the ones that you guys have broken, the Ray Porter casting, the Peter Guinness casting, the storyboards. You put all the clues together, you start to feel like you've got a pretty good sense of what's actually in the Snyder Cut. And then he pulls this storyboard out of Lois and Martha sitting in, I think, what turned out to be Lois's apartment. And then it appears that it's Martha that leaves Lois's apartment, shuts the door, turns into Martian Manhunter, and then morphs into General Swanwick. And, you know, and his caption, I think, was pretty appropriate. I think it said something along the lines of, bet you didn't know this. And, yeah, you know, I didn't. And it raises so many questions. Where does that scene come into the movie? What's Martian Manhunter's role from that point on? Was Swanwick always Martian Manhunter, or is this just an identity he's temporarily assuming? You know, so it raises so many questions, and it's so interesting. You know, it's just one more reason to want to see this cut. And you know, as Snyder said in his caption, he filmed everything except for the final slide with was it Harry Lennox is the actor's name, right? So I guess it leads you to question, you know, if we get the Snyder Cut, are we getting the whole scene minus Harry Lennox? Are we not getting that portion, that transformation into Martian Manhunter? Or is he still going to try and get that in there? Either, you know, as a last minute shot if Warner Brothers okays it, or you know, I guess you could probably CGI it for the 2 seconds he's probably in that scene. But again, more budget. So many questions, right? And moving over to the other one, the Dark Side post. I mean, I think we already knew that you know, Dark Side was at the end of the film. Now, whether or not Snyder specifically confirmed that or not, I guess that's his first time confirming Dark Side at the end of the film. He's confirmed Uxas in the history lesson, but I think we knew from, you know, hints that Ray Porter had put out that you know, Steppenwolf's head rolls to Darkseid's foot at the end of the film, and they're left staring at Darkseid through the boom tube, right? So I'm not sure if this is a new reveal. I'm not sure if he's saying at the end of the story that Diana's looking out of the mural, it's Darkseid, which I think we already knew as well. So I'm not sure if he's giving us new information, but it's one more picture. And, you know, and for those that doubt, we now have some official confirmation from the man himself.
Yeah. Awesome. Chris, what do you think?
It's good stuff, Paul. While I have not personally been an active supporter of the Snyder Cuts, I'm not against it. I followed it a long time. If it was ever to get released, I'd buy it. I'd absolutely purchase it. I would. I absolutely would purchase it. If it's released in theaters, I'd go see it in theaters. If we get it on Blu-ray, we get it on Blu-ray. That's fantastic too. The version of Justice League that we got was disappointing, but it was the version of Justice League we got. So I've just kind of been like, you know what? I'm done. It's just time to move on to the next phase. I have always believed that if you had left Snyder alone to make his own movie, his own Justice League, it would have been fine. If you had left Whedon alone to make his own movie, it would have been fine. Whedon fans would have hated Snyder's version. Snyder's fans would have hated Whedon's version. That's fine. That's okay. We can all have that opinion. But the hate that gets shot in each direction at both of these men, whether you're pro Snyder Cut or against it, is ridiculous. I've definitely followed it now much more closely over the last few months than I did before. I know that there's a lot of people that question, what is the definition of the word cut? Is it his director's cut? Is it the version that he delivered to Warner Brothers that then would need editing afterwards? Things like that. I believe It's the 214-minute version that people have been talking about. We know Jason's seen it. We know a lot of people know it's out there. So at this point, I don't even think we can argue that the cut, whether it exists or not, it's there. It exists. It's what is the cut, how much work needs to be done, whether or not you support it, right? So that's that. So that's the way I feel. I definitely am no Zack Snyder hater. I just am not one of those people that's out all the time fighting for it. Some of the stuff that we've gotten, I believe Zack has done a much better job recently, especially on Vero and things like that, than before. When the Snyder Cut was kind of this more mythical thing, he kind of seemed to take a step back, right? Now you guys are getting, as fans, you guys are getting more storyboards. You're getting all these posts and everything like that. Now a storyboard is a storyboard. We don't 100% know. There were a lot of storyboards for Dark Phoenix, let's say, that never, ever were going to get done. So was this 100% definitely? He did say he didn't get a chance to film that. So is that going to be in the cut? Maybe not. You know, it's not going to be in the cut, but it looked like he was going that direction. And if he was, that fundamentally changes all of his interactions with General Swanwick. Every single one of them. Fundamentally changed. They completely change everything, going all the way back to Man of Steel. And that's really awesome if that's what he is. And Martian Manhunter is a personal favorite of mine. I don't like Supergirl really, but him being in that show is awesome. So it's, you know, so I think seeing what Zack would have done with him, whether you agree with Zack's the way he makes movies or not, I think it would have been something very different. And the final reveal, the thing that, you know, the shots that we're seeing with Gal Gadot now gives us a much more intricate look at some of these designs from the past that don't look so cartoony, I would say, in the Justice League version that we got. And it gives us an idea of the really more serious, more involved direction that Zack and his team were going down. Even if they did get studio interference, they were going in a much more involved direction. Again, I'll repeat, my lifelong disappointment after this will be, look, Justice League is over, it's done. But it was just a Frankenstein's monster mess of a movie that they asked Joss Whedon to come in. He put his spin in on it. And you can't mix his take with Zack's take. It doesn't work.
It's like oil and water.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. And I understand if you don't like Whedon. I get it. I do. I think he's made good movies. And I get it if you don't like Snyder. That's fine too. But both of those men are extremely freaking talented. And to do what they did and slap Snyder in the face, use the death of his daughter and everything like that as an excuse is wrong. I hate every second of that. I don't like it at all. These things, I think, are giving you guys, especially the Snyder Cut supporters, I think they're giving you guys a lot of ammunition to go back to Warner Brothers and say, guys, do this. Do this. Because you even got people like me who are MCU fans sitting around saying, yeah, I'm going to buy this thing. I'm going to watch it. So I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the Snyder Cut, it's very personal to me. There are many reasons why I support the Snyder Cut. For one, obviously a huge Zack Snyder fan. And I like what he started doing. So I want to see the story completed in the way that he intended. Secondly, the tragedy of him losing his daughter in that process. Absolutely awful. And to have this compounded on top of it and just have such a torrid time in his life is just like, we just want to, you know, help him heal a little bit with that. Then also, there is just the wider ideal of artistic integrity and artistic vision. Like I'm an artist at heart. Like, you know, I grew up, you know, like drawing, and that's why I was drawn to visual arts and comic books. And I love going to museums, and I love, you know, conversing with artists. And I love art as a medium of communication. And one of the things that's very important to me with artists is allowing artists the freedom to truly express themselves. I know it's show business. There's a show and there's a business. But within that, there is still room for artists to, you know,
definitely
have freedom and you know, tell their true vision. And I feel like the fight for Snyder Cut is the fight for studios to know that when you have an artist, let the artist tell their vision, or else you're gonna get, you know, fans and, you know, customers, patrons, whatever you want to call, you know, the audience, who are not going to be satisfied and are going to, you know, demand better of them. So the Snyder Cut is my most anticipated movie in the future, in perpetuity, until it comes out. I'm going to be stomping. I'm going to be doing all I can to make sure that it comes out. And these reveals, you guys, you know, you've covered it. I think Paul did such an amazing job going over
Yes.
them.
Yes.
It's Zack Snyder, given life, to the movement. If there wasn't a Snyder cut, he would not be doing this. So I think it's very encouraging for the movement, and I think the reveals are they're like mind blowing. I'm not sure what this cut is going to look like, whether he'll be allowed to film more, whether there's going to be more investment, or we're going to get it just the way it is, basically kind of finished. But however it is, I want it, and I would prefer it to what we got. That's just the absolute truth.
And I think that's an important point to make. I think we get caught up in these arguments about what does it mean to exist, and Chris, you touched on that briefly. I think what a lot of the detractors fail to realize is that we would gladly accept an 80% complete version or a 90% complete version. I think we're all in agreement that he told us 214 minutes for a reason. He's got a preferred cut that's 214 minutes long. You give me those 214 minutes, if it's got storyboards in it, if it's missing sound effects, if it's missing VFX in portions, I don't care. I mean, I'd love to see it polished up, but I just want the story. And he clearly has something in mind. I mean, if he didn't want us to do this, he ends this with a sentence.
Absolutely.
One post on Vero say, guys, it's been a great ride. Time to give up. We all stop. He's not done that. You look at the timing of this post. I mean, this is clearly done to support us at New York Comic Con with the billboard going up, right? He's doing his.
I think
his share to say, here's my contribution in trying to give us the ammunition. And I think segueing into the next piece where we talk about Cinema Blend and those guys. I mean, we've been swimming uphill, so long against the narratives, right? And finally, the tide is starting to turn a little bit, where we've got a few check marks joining us and looking at us in a slightly more positive light. And I think Snyder's really helping to fuel that. It's just he clearly wants it. He's got something in mind. I know people have said that he said not to worry about the cost. Some people will interpret that differently, right? Does it mean it doesn't need additional money? Does it mean he has sources of funding secured? Does it mean he just wants to release it the way it is and he's happy letting it out there? It doesn't matter, right? Just get it out there.
That's a distraction. Let's just get the cut.
Exactly. Let's just get it out there. If he's happy releasing it in whatever state it is, let's just get it.
Absolutely.
And there's precedent for that too. If you look in the past, I think what you guys are doing is extremely similar to what happened with the Donner cut. And the only thing that's changed now is technology, right? Twitter, things like Facebook and the internet and everything like that, and what we do with mobile. It's just the new letter writing campaign. That's all it is. That's all it is. Sure. And if you can get the masses and you can get a couple of, I know we're going to lead into this now in a second. If you can get some of the blue checks and some of the people that have been against this on your side to at least, even if they don't actively support it, but if they can stop hating, if they can just stop actively going against it all the time, that will go a very long way. That will go a very long way.
And that segues perfectly into our next topic of discussion. So there was a post on the website for the American Foundation for Prevention of Suicide, the AFPS, who the Snyder Cut has, supported greatly, and we've all donated money towards that cause in honor of, Autumn Snyder, who lost, her battle in life to suicide, and also some blue checks like Sean O'Connell from Cinema Blend and Paul Sherry from Joe Blow, who used to be against the cut, like strongly against the cut. They've done an absolute 180 and they're for the cut. Sean went on Twitter and, publicly, stated that he's done some posts on his website. Same thing with Paul Sherry. And he's also, talked about it on his podcast. So there's been like a bunch of, positive, momentum in the media. So Christian, tell us, what do you think about, the positive, media attention that the movement is getting?
Absolutely. Lupe, you and I have talked a couple of times on the pod about tribalism, and what happens. And I think, unfortunately, in the early days of the Snyder Cut movement, that's what was happening, right? You had the people that were the no's and the yeses, and all there was this hate that was going on. And if you supported the cut, you got trashed. That was it in a story. And if I came out and said, I didn't like Sucker Punch, then the cut movement went after me and said, well, you hate Zack Snyder. And that needs to stop. And I think we're moving in that direction. It hasn't stopped yet. I think we all know it's still there. But we definitely are moving in that direction. I think that when you get guys like Paul and I get guys like Nick that write these pieces, I think this is fantastic. There is zero reason for all the hate that's been lobbed back and forth at the group. There's more than enough evidence out there for the 214-minute version. Let people enjoy what they want. That's number one. If you want, I don't care if people want to watch this. I don't care if someone goes to see Captain Marvel 100 times in the movie. That's not my problem. Enjoy it. That's what you like. Then go ahead and have fun. Go write WB 1,000 times and say that you want this. That's right. You fight for what you want. It's that simple. That's number one. And number two, just to say something personal, you guys, I know I've talked to some of the members of the Exiles about this. I suffer from depression, okay? I tried to commit suicide when I was younger. I failed, and that's good that I failed at trying to commit suicide. It's a battle I fight every day. I still wake up to this day with suicidal thoughts. So what, and that association is one of about 5 that my wife and I donate to already on our own every year, including the Salvation Army, American Cancer, there's a couple of others. I applaud what you guys have done. I hope you continue to do it. It touches my heart. I'm tearing up a little bit while I'm talking to you guys right now. And I thank you for what you do. I really do. And I may not be online all the time and saying, guys, I want the Snyder Cut. I want the Snyder Cut. But no, when it comes to the suicide prevention stuff, I have your back 150%. I love you guys for doing it. And I am so happy that some of these freaking blue checks are finally shutting the hell up, seeing the light. And not only just, even if they just back off, you don't have to support, just shut up and back off.
True. Paul, tell us what you think.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it, right? It's trying to shift the narrative, right? And the and trying to have the our cause seen in a better light. And obviously we have a very valid cause that we've been contributing to, and it's nice to that's starting to be seen a little bit. Zach picked that story up, that blog that McD wrote. Zach picked that up, retweeted it. I just checked it. It's got almost 17,000 likes, so that's, it's been seen, which is good. And, it's been slowly it's added up, and it's a pretty substantial amount of funds that have accumulated there. So
it's about 100,000 or over 100,000.
Yeah, I think getting close to 110.
Yeah, it's over 100.
So,
it's over 100.
Just between that, and even if we never get this thing, just for Zach to see how many people love his work and want to see his work. I mean, it's got to be a vindication for him, and there's there's some victory in that, right? Absolutely. So I think that's great. And it's just as you said, Chris, just having the check marks, not fighting against us is all we really need. If they want to pick up the cause, God, that's great. I mean, because how else do you grow, right? Otherwise, we're in our echo chamber, and having a couple of these guys turn and say, you know what, these guys aren't so bad. They got a valid point here, instead of the usual condescension and dismissal and belittlement, right? So it makes such a difference, and hopefully slowly that snowball will get turned around and rolling in the other direction, So,
right.
I think this is a great step,
Yeah, I think just the piece that McD wrote that was hosted and highlighted in the AFPS site, like that really touched my heart, because like when Zach was hit with tragedy, when his whole family was hit with tragedy, I mean, we all felt, because one thing about Zack Snyder that a lot of people don't realize is that this is one of the best human beings ever. Like, I posted something on my Twitter, retweeting someone who worked on his new film Army of the Dead, talked about how he takes the time to talk to everyone, from the person who's at the top of the call sheet to like the lowest person, who's just like a helping hand. Like, that's the way Zach is. He has a passion for people. He's a good person. And so for his family to be affected by suicide, like that affected all of us so much. And we felt, so much empathy for him, and we almost feel like part of his family. So, I mean, for us to, take on suicide prevention as one of our causes for the movement just speaks to the quality of people in the movement. And the sad thing about it is that in the media, amongst bloggers and critics, they've always kind of labeled Snyder fans as toxic, as terrible people, as people without morals and people without good character. And it's the complete opposite of that. We've always said it. It shouldn't have taken our association with a good cause to make them see that. But I guess if that's how they see it, then so be it. But I've always said it, like, the people that you meet in this movement, Snyder fans, are some of the best people. The only reason why you see them online and probably, getting a bit agitated and, arguing with critics and stuff is because they just feel like Snyder gets bullied so much and someone has to stand up for him. And so the fans just take it upon themselves, to be, the force that, sort of fights for his honor and fights for his character and fights for his art, So it's been a good week in the media, and I'm just, really positive, and it's, given me a boost to see that, what we're doing is going noticed. Like, believe it, Warner Brothers may not have made an official statement, but there is no way that they are not seeing all of this. And we are shifting the tide. We are. And the Snyder Cut is going to come. I don't know when it's going to come. It may come next week. It may come next year. It may come in 5 years. But one thing I always say is, when you're fighting for something that you love, you don't get exhausted. People who fight for things that they hate get tired. But people who fight for things they love, they don't get tired. So eventually, we're going to wear them down.
I think that's an important point. I think the people that have been very against it from the beginning, eventually, they're fighting just because they want to get clicks, or it's all about that clout, whatever it may be. And we get that. But you guys are passionate about this. This is something that you really want. People really wanted the Donner Cut. Dude, when Family Guy went off the air, people really wanted Family Guy. I mean, when people passionately want something, they will continue that fight. And one of the things that you mentioned, I think, is really important. Every fandom has bad fans. I don't care who they are. And I'm an MCU fan. I see the stands go on the attack on a consistent basis. I've been attacked by some people in the Snyder Cut movement because I said I didn't like Sucker Punch. It happens. I get that. People are passionate. They freak out. We all got bad fans. We need to try to separate that out. We really need to. There's people behind all of these movements, whatever they are. And there's very passionate people. And who cares? Dude, the Donner Cut took what, 15 years or 20 years, whatever it was. You guys would know better. It took a long time for that to happen, but it eventually did. Don't give up.
Yeah. Screw that. We're not going to.
Yeah, don't give up.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Not going to happen.
I agree with that 100%. Go for it.
Great. So that was a great, talk, and that really got me uplifted. So now let's go into our coming soon section, and we have 4 topics. So let's start with something that is associated with Zack Snyder very much, Watchmen. So HBO is releasing a Watchmen TV series. We're in the golden age of television, but HBO has been doing prestige TV for years. So I want to hear what you guys think about, Watchmen, the graphic novel, Watchmen is property, the Watchmen film that Zack Snyder released, and this Watchmen TV series. I want to know, are you guys going to watch it? And then also, what do you think of the release schedule? It's going to release once a week instead of the Netflix, binge schedule where they just drop everything at once. So, Paul, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm definitely going to watch it. I think we've become accustomed to pretty high production quality from HBO. I think they must feel pretty good about it, putting it in their prestigious Sunday night time slot.
Yeah.
I like the weekly format for the shows you really want to watch, like the Game of Thrones, those type of shows that. Even to a lesser extent, Westworld. I like the weekly format. Everyone can talk about it on Monday, assuming you have HBO. So I like that format for the shows you absolutely have to watch. So I think it works for this one. I love the graphic novel. I love the director's cut of the Watchmen, the movie, Snyder's movie. as I mentioned, I think when we were talking about earlier today, I went out and read the graphic novel in the lead up to the movie, and then was not disappointed by the movie. So I've never understood, but have grown to accept the divided takes of Snyder's films and the way people. Actually, I saw a very sort of what I thought was a good quote about this film, and it said, it's going to be open to interpretation. It kind of holds up a mirror and lets you. See what you choose to see. And I think that's always been sort of used against Snyder's films.
Yeah.
It seems like it's being used in a more positive light here. So I think because it's not Snyder, I think this is going to get praise. I hope it's good. I hope it's not used to bash Snyder and put down his film, which I've already seen happening. I just hope that that's minimized. But, I'm trying to block that out so I can enjoy the show, because I got to say it does bug me. The more I see people put this show up by bashing Snyder's film, the more it turns me off the show. So I'm trying to block that out so I can still enjoy the show. Last point, I would say that, as we know, it's set sort of 30 years post the graphic novel in a more present day, an alternate present day, I guess. And from what I understand, the main threat is obviously no longer sort of the nuclear threat, but it's white supremacy, led by sort of this cult of Rorschach that has misinterpreted what Rorschach was about, which is also kind of fitting because so many people seem to misinterpret Snyder's Rorschach, right? So I'm curious to see how that all plays out. So I'm going in with an open mind, cautious optimism, and I just hope the media narratives don't spoil it for me.
Yeah, Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely going into it with an open mind as well. I like I wouldn't say every HBO show, but a lot of their shows. And this weekly format. Now, Game of Thrones was an interesting show because it kind of started before binge watching really became a huge thing, right? And then as the show progressed, Netflix became even more of a thing, and binge watching really became part of our culture. But you can really drum up hype by doing the weekly event. Yeah. And just like Paul said, the water cooler talk on Monday morning, I think that's a really good way to do it. Sunday night is that prime Game of Thrones night. They obviously have a lot of faith in this show, or they wouldn't have chucked it there. So I think that's good. Disney Plus is going to be doing that with a couple of their shows too, like The Mandalorian, which looks fantastic. That show's not going to be bingeable. You got to wait every week for that show. And I think that's a really good way to do it. You can mix a couple of these shows and really turn them into events that way. And I like that. Whether you have the HBO streaming service or you order HBO through your cable and you haven't cut the cord yet, you're getting it the same way. It's the same experience. So I really like that. I didn't get Watchmen, the graphic novel, immediately. I was about 7 or 8 years old when it first came out. So I got into comics in the 90s with X-Men. And that's when I became a massive collector and I started reading comics and everything. So I got the mini, if you want to call it a mini series, I guess it was about 12 issues in the 90s. And I still have those to this day. I still have my Watchmen, and they're wrapped in plastic and they are preserved. It was awesome as a teenager to read. I was like, this is cool, man. It's like kind of anti everything, right? It's like counter. Even from a kid, I was into sci-fi and like alternate realities and stuff like that. And that Watchmen was the ultimate reality. And superheroes weren't exactly the good guys. They weren't really seen as the good guys, and they're flawed like you and me. So that was awesome. And seeing it brought on screen in Snyder's version of it. And I remember going to see it with my wife, and she didn't know what to expect. And we both liked it. It had its moments that I didn't. Snyder did such a fantastic job of transferring what was in the books to the screen. And he made it look like a comic book, which he's still one of the few directors that can do that, whether you like him or not. He absolutely makes his movies look like the page of a comic book. So it had a couple of like cringy moments that probably shouldn't have translated well over to the screen. Like the sex scene was kind of like, a couple moments like that. But overall, it was visionary. It was something that hadn't been done before. And like Lupe and I were talking about The Matrix and some of like the bullet time stuff that's been used in movies now, even to this day. They're using stuff from that movie to this day.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason why both versions cannot exist. I know the medium narrative, like Paul said, might get in the way, and there's no reason to bash Snyder in order for this to be good, and there's no reason for Snyder's version to be good in order to bash this version. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's what will happen. I think we all know that one way or another, both will get bashed and both will get loved for some reason, and it will be the wrong reason, right? But they should both exist. This is a different take. It's a story that takes place in the Watchmen universe. It's different. It looks exciting. It looks, again, that counterculture. Robert Redford is the longest serving president and stuff like it's going to be really interesting. And we have these issues going on with our current president and everything like that, whether you like him or not. There's a lot of political pain in this country. People are, they're fighting. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people fighting. And I think that it's very apropos right now that we're getting this particular storyline. I will say that. Yeah, I will say that. I think it makes sense that this is the group that's the bad guys. Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, the Watchmen graphic novel, I read it when I was too young to understand it in the early 90s. And obviously, because it was recommended, like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like, you got to read this. I bought it, read it, didn't understand it. It looked pretty whatever. I was obsessed with my Spawns and my Superman, all that stuff.
Because Spawn's awesome. That's why.
Because it is. It is. But Spawn is no Watchmen. No offense. No offense to any Spawn fans. I'm willing to die on that cross. Spawn is no Watchmen. So when I got a bit older and the Watchmen movie was coming out, I was like, damn, like I remember that graphic novel, blah, blah. I got to brush up on it. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I had, more intellectual tools. I was more mature and seen life a bit more, understood, the gray areas of life. And that's what the book really deals with, the complexities of life. And so reading it, fell in love with it. And ever since then, I read it maybe once or twice a year. Like whenever I travel, I take it with me and I read it over again. I just absolutely adore it. The Watchmen film, I think, is an absolute masterpiece. It's one of those films that, sometimes when I'm at home and not really doing anything, I'll put it on in the background if I'm like cleaning or, doing laundry or, talking to my girl or whatever. And I just marvel at the craftsmanship of what Zack Snyder was able to make. In my eyes, it's an absolutely perfect film. To me, it's the best looking comic book film ever made. That's where I stand on it. The Watchmen TV series, I'm absolutely looking forward to it. As we said, it's set in a different timeline, but in the same universe. And it's taken on these very political ideas. I found that the Watchmen graphic novel and film are very political, but they're not very moral in terms of they're not particularly pointing you in one direction or another. Now, this Watchmen TV series seems to be quite moral in terms of the stance that it's taken against, white supremacy. Obviously, it's going to take that stance, hopefully.
Yeah. I hope.
And to me, that doesn't seem very Watchmen-y, but at the same time, I think what is very Watchmen-y about it is that it's a very bold and very strong take. Like this is something that's going to be controversial. This is something that's going to stir up emotions. This is something that some people are going to, get upset and riled up about. And at the end of the day, that's the core of Watchmen.
That's what
Watchmen's big ideas. Yep. So I can never hate on Damon Lindelof for what he's trying to do with this. And he's also making it contemporary. During the time that Watchmen was made, it was about, nuclear war, the Cold War. That was the political angst of the day. Today, sadly, it's racial tensions and, the divisiveness,
yes.
within our political life.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to it. And I got to give props to WB/DC because they have somehow willed and made Watchmen a thing. Watchmen was supposed to be, obviously Alan Moore wanted it to be a one-off thing that exists on its own. He hates the fact that there was a film. He hates that there's merchandise. He hates that, there's a TV series, whatever. It's completely fine. But I actually do like the fact that they're making it a property and they're making it a universe that's gonna live even beyond the graphic novel. Like I actually like that because I feel it's too. I know it's weird to say, but I feel like it deserves to be this thing that people can tell stories in and can be used for bold ideas and to communicate, you know, by artists in the future. So
I think
looking
that's an
forward
interesting
to.
thought, man. I do. I agree with you. I think that's a really interesting thought that you can expand, and I apologize for interrupting you, but you can expand this world into something different. And sometimes that happens with a creator and they make something and they don't realize that it takes on a life of its own. And I think because Watchmen runs counter to our universe, it's an alternate universe and everything like that. And superheroes aren't necessarily altruistic, all good, all with little white halos above their head and stuff like that, that they have flaws, just like the three of us. I think that can make it much more interesting. So, and there's a lot of different directions that they could take this thing, and why not turn it into a little bit of a mini universe? Why not?
Yeah. I think it's really cool. Like people are going to be able to, know Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. And if you tell people like, oh, the Watchmen, they'll be like, oh yeah, I know the Watchmen. That's that. I think that's really awesome. And I got to give WB props as custodians of
definitely
of the IP. They've done a good job with fostering it, and they've done it with care because everything they put out of Watchmen, the film, and even it looks like this series has been of the best quality. So fingers crossed, this is going to be good. All right. So now let's move on to some trailer talk. Today we got, not today, the past couple of days. So we got the Bombshell trailer. And this is a movie about, the fall of Roger Ailes. He was the guy behind, Fox News. And it stars Charlize Theron, Margot Robbie, Nicole Kidman, Kate McKinnon, Alice Eve, and a bunch of other really good actresses. Christian, start us off. What are your thoughts on the Bombshell trailer?
Holy Oscar talk, Batman. I mean, seriously, this level of talent is crazy. It's crazy. And did you guys notice that Charlize Theron looks exactly like Megyn Kelly? Like she talks like her, acts like her, walks like her.
I think there's going to be awards for that makeup.
Incredible. Nicole Kidman looks incredible in it. And I know everything gets looked through a political lens right now. And underneath the trailer, I saw the left and the right going after one another already. They were going at, and then the right was saying, "Oh, how come we don't have a movie about the left?" And the left was saying, "Well, that's because the right always does this." It was a constant. It doesn't matter. This is something that happened, and they believed that it would make a good movie. That's it. End story. And there'll be something else about the left as well that will come out that they will think will make a good story. And it's the same thing. For right now, how about we just call it what it is? It looks like a freaking fantastic Oscar-worthy movie with amazing talent. I'm all in. All in. So I don't even know what much else to say except awesome job with the casting on this one. They look exactly like their real world counterparts. Let's go. I think it comes out in December, right? So I'm in.
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, you know what? To be honest, I hadn't even heard of this when you brought it up, and so I had to go watch a trailer, and I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's a great cast. Movie looks good. It's one the trailer did its job. I want to see it now. Will I get out to the theater and see it, or is this going to be one of those ones that my wife and I keep saying we should watch, and then 2 years later we still haven't got around to it? Time will tell. But at this moment, I saw the trailer, I liked it, and then watch it.
All right, cool. Well, I mean, for me, this was one that I had on my radar, but once I saw the teaser, even I was sold, and once I saw the trailer, I'm all the way in the deep end on this one. Like for real, like, dude, this trailer, this seems like it's the mating call for an Oscar. I mean, I'm telling you, like, if this is not nominated for a slew of Oscars, I would be surprised because, first off, the screenplay is written by the same guy who wrote Spotlight. Have you guys ever seen Spotlight? Yeah. So
I haven't. I know about it.
Yeah.
I haven't. I just know the accolades.
It won, exactly. One Best Picture, one screenplay, one everything. And this is the type of movie that Oscars are made for. It's about a very important issue, sexual misconduct in the workplace and the Me Too movement, we are all in agreement, no matter whether you're on the left, you're on the right, your political affiliation, that women need to be respected and treated, with dignity the workplace. And it's coming at the right time. It's in the zeitgeist, and then it's got these incredible actresses, and it's a true life story which is being dramatized. Like, I can't wait to watch it. And from what I'm hearing from people who've seen previews of it, it lives up to all the hype. So this is something that we're all going to look out for. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Jungle Cruise. The Rock and Emily Blunt are going to be in this one, and it's based on a theme park ride. I can just hear Scorsese gritting his teeth in. Theme park ride movies. And it's quite interesting because Disney makes movies based on rides. So Jungle Cruise, based on a Disney theme park ride. Also Pirates of the Caribbean, it's hugely successful, was based on a theme park ride. And they also make rides based on movies. So, they were making like the Marvel movies or whatever the movies they make that are successful, they port them to their theme parks and make rides out of them. So once again, Scorsese was very right. Don't hate the player, hate the game. But now, I will say this. This looked really good. Sorry. I'm calling it as I see it. This looked absolutely fantastic. And I know that it's kind of being made in the same mold as Pirates of the Caribbean. And I just think it looks like a really fun, sort of adventure, has that feel of, like those sort of 1980s Spielberg, classics. Obviously, it has a little bit of a touch of Indiana Jones with Emily Blunt, sort of being the explorer, but then with The Rock taking on the physical part of it. And it looks fantastic. The VFX look really good. And I think that they have a hit on their hands. I really do. So, Paul, back me up. Come on. Don't leave me out here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this one.
Wow, okay.
I know fun's a bad word, but this looks fun.
It's not. Have fun.
It's got a Pirates of the Caribbean mummy kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of Jumanji kind of, but maybe a little lighter, more in the typical Disney style. I think it looks great, and they've incorporated a lot of elements of the ride. Now, if I didn't get myself canceled with my hot take on the Bat Family, we are actually a Disney family. When people at work want advice on a Disney vacation, I'm the guy that comes to, believe it or not. So
wow,
good for you.
We've been there I think 6 years running, and we always make a point of getting down at the Jungle Cruise ride, and so I thought they did a really good job of kind of incorporating The Rock as the wisecracking tour guide, and incorporating even some elements from the ride, like the backside of water comment is one of their typical jokes when you're on the ride, right? And you get the people throwing floor darts at you.
This dude, oh my goodness, you are so well versed in this. I thought you were joking. You're dead serious.
No, man, I'm not kidding, man. I love Disney. I mean, I can't stand the MCU, and I hated The Last Jedi, but other than that, I love Disney. I'm looking forward to this one. This is the kind of movie that bring the family to, and I think it's going to be a good time.
Cool. All right, Chris, what do you think? You hate it. You absolutely detest it.
I think you guys nailed it. I mean, doesn't The Rock just look like he's having a good time all the time?
Yeah.
And whether it's Jumanji or... Yeah. I mean, even if it was freaking Skyscraper, which wasn't even that good, who cares? Yep. He was having a great time in that movie, too. He just seems like he's having a blast. And they did a good freaking job with at least the original Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. Mm-hmm. And that was a good storyline. And it was fun with Johnny Depp kind of just being a rock star, if you will, and being Mick Jagger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of those movies were carried by his charisma, but they turned a freaking ride into a franchise. So I don't know if they're going to do that with Jungle Cruise or not, but they certainly can. The movie just looks like your typical Disney family fun.
Yeah, and it looks good.
What's wrong with that? Yeah, and I like the little nostalgia that they got going on with it, like you said, the Indiana Jones and stuff. And it's the trailer made me laugh. I don't have kids, so I don't know if I'm necessarily going to be front row to go see it on opening night. But I'll probably go see it in theaters. Yeah, I'll probably go see it.
Yes.
Hey, I went to see Dumbo by myself.
Yes.
That was another one. My
Wow.
my daughter thought it was good. Dad, my wife had no interest. I'm like, forget it. I'm going by myself. And I went to see Dumbo in IMAX by myself. I loved it.
There's nothing wrong in going to the movies by yourself. Sometimes it's really amazing.
Gotta happen.
All right. So, well, that's all we got for the people today. We've covered all the topics. It's been a really fun, raucous discussion. And with that, we're gone. I'd like to thank my road dogs in this jaunt through the apocalyptic wasteland. Chris, tell the people where they can find you and where they can send all the hate mail.
You can find me both on Twitter and Instagram at CHART6363, chart 6363.
All right. And Paul, where can I find you?
Yeah, if you love the Bat Family and you want to let me know, it's @_Paul_P. Or if you want help planning your next Disney vacation, you could reach me there too.
And I've been yours truly. My name is Lupe. You can find me on Twitter and on Vero at Live Love Lupe. If you have any hate mail, feel free to send it to Chris or Paul, not me, because I'm a very gentle flower and I break very easily. So that's all we have for you guys. Remember, wherever you go, whatever you do, not